Join us today on Beyond the Lair, where we speak to Himikalas, Pam Baker from the Squamish Nation, who speaks about matriarch leadership, lessons from sports, fashion, and leading the next generation. Hello, welcome to Beyond the Lair. Today we have a wonderful guest, and I can't wait for our audience to get introduced. But first and foremost, my name is Gina Jackson Montgomery. I am a proud member of the Seashell Nation. My traditional name is Cetacia, and I want to welcome you here today and like to introduce my co-host.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dean Montgomery. I am Cree Métis from Saskatchewan, and I'm very excited to see Himikalas today. And she has presented, I believe, at a few of our camps before, and incredibly powerful to the youth that were there.
Yes, I want to personally put my hands up to you, Himikalas. Himikalas is a proud member of the Squamish Nation member, and Quagulth. And one of my mentors, I always think if I have 5 people that I can put on my hand to say about people that have been inspiring, have had that mentorship role in my life as a true female Indigenous leader that has led her nation, the members, on a political basis, on a design basis, on an entrepreneurial journey, it would certainly be you. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Himikalas.
Hey, good afternoon. It's good to see both of you again, and I look forward to discussing and being introduced to the Bears Lair.
Perfect. So can you introduce yourself as you would from the 2 nations that you're from and how you introduce yourself today?
Yeah, my name is Himikalas, and I just received a new name at our last memorial potlatch. It's Siwi Duch, and it's a high-ranking name, which I'm very proud of. I am Skohopmish from Squamish Nation, and I'm Muskamat Zawadeno from Kinkum Inlet, as well as lineage through our Quagil side in Sakis on the Hunt side of the family, and then Tlingit from southern Alaska, Tongass, Alaska. I've been in business for 35 years. I've lived all over the United States. I came back to the community. And my ultimate goal has always been to work with our First Nations youth to build self-esteem, self-confidence, and show the world that we're still here.
Amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about your upbringing, about your childhood, and what that was like when you were younger?
Yeah, I grew up in Kemultison, Capilano Reserve. Originally, we lived down at the beach below Lionsgate Bridge, and then we moved up to Kemultison, I think when I was about 5. So we were introduced to more of our family members. With my mother being Kwakwaka'wakw, I did a lot of potlatching starting as a young child at age 5. So for some reason at that time, I decided that I was going to listen to the elders and sit with them. And even though I didn't understand them because they were speaking Kwakula, I made it my choice to learn as much as I could at a young age. On my father's side, it was mainly about sports. When I was a young res kid, I played fast pitch, lacrosse, basketball, and soccer. And I feel that being part of a team gave me the ability to work in teams in regards to business, always have a team spirit, and also continue coaching within our communities.
Excellent. I know that sports is a really big part of your life and that you mentor and you coach many youth, including your own children and now your grandchildren, in all native basketball, and you're a huge advocate for sport within youth. Can you talk about your experience and the levels in which you played, and then the coaching that you've done and the accolades you've got from creating that team work and connecting, particularly with Indigenous male youth, which I find is really interesting with you.
Hmm. Well, I start my main sport. People ask because I'm a basketball coach, and I'm attempting to step down a little bit in coaching. Um, my main sport was fast pitch, and thankfully, our community supported fast pitch. They actually, in my family, supported all the sports of the Squamish Nation. Our family had a family business where we would fund a lot of the sports. My family would help in lacrosse, basketball, fast pitch, and soccer, and canoe races. They would donate money to the nation so that they would support the ongoing sport of Squamish Nation. And one of the greatest things was playing fast pitch. The reason I loved it so much, we traveled a lot. Uh, we traveled all over BC. We went to Albuquerque, Sacramento, Reno, Oklahoma, um, Alberta, and we participated in the nationals several times. We placed second in Oklahoma, which was fantastic. And of course, we could have won that game, but there was a few little technicalities I won't even get into. And then basketball was probably my second sport. I liked being able to leave basketball practice and take my bike and go to soccer practice. So it was always ongoing, and jogging, staying in shape, and that gave me excellent structure in regards to my life and my lifestyle. And then also my mother always cooking good meals. We were really fortunate to have a mom that provided 3 meals a day. So learning that also, then I played lacrosse. I only played it because my brother would throw me in the net and shoot hard lacrosse balls at me, and I'd have pillows on, and I'd attempt to be really tough when that ball really hurt a lot. And then soccer, I just did it for the running. And a couple of times I was captain of the team. I was a forward player. And I think, all sports, when you play all sports, it all comes together at the end of the day. And you have a healthier lifestyle. And thankfully, one of my brother's wives taught me, they were hippies, and they taught me how to eat really well when I was about 13, 14 years old. So I've never been a junk food eater. I'm not addicted to chocolate or pop or chips or anything like that. So thankfully I had that guidance at a young age. So I continue to do that and work really hard at balance within my life.
Nice. I know Dean has boys. Can you maybe talk about connection with boys in sport and how rare it is for a female to be able to be a matriarch?
Yeah, I started coaching boys at, when I was in Los Angeles going to school full time. My 2 sons were with me. And I decided to put them in football, baseball, basketball on the weekends when I'm supposed to be doing homework. I was running around with my kids, and um, I decided to start coaching my youngest son YMCA, so you had to be certified. So it was real easy to get certified to be a coach because basically they needed coaches. So I started coaching my youngest son when he was about 5, 6 years old in basketball. It was really a lot of fun. And when I came back to North Van, there wasn't any basketball teams. And there was about 4 women. We all played against each other on the lower mainland. And I kept asking our nation, is there any boys teams? They said, oh yeah, we'll start a team. And then the next year, is there any teams going on? Anybody coaching yet? Oh yeah, we'll get around to it. And finally I just said, I met with 3 other women, and next thing you know, we decided to have a league. So it was Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh for a little while, but they had struggled to get players, our North Shore Wolves, and Friendship Center in Vancouver. So there I am, I'm coaching guys. And the ultimate goal with coaching the young boys was to help them with structure, give them direction in business and entrepreneurship, and talk to them about education. And next thing you know, we apparently in BC, people wanted to join our club, and I didn't even plan on having a club. They would want to send some of their players down here to go to Carson so they could play for the North Shore Wolves. And so I traveled with them a lot. I also coached, that was junior boys, then intermediate boys, and then senior men's. North American Indigenous Games, I coached 4 times at NAG. First of all, it was the little guys. And then finally, I was coaching U19 boys, where we went to Regina and participated. I think it was U19. I get mixed up sometimes. And we won the whole thing. We won gold, which was pretty damn exciting. Team BC against an American team, Wisconsin. And yeah, it was, we won a lot of tournaments in basketball because the boys got along so well. And it was funny when we'd go to the NAG tryouts. I don't use the word try, but it was tryouts. I'd had my son and my assistant coaches standing by me, and all these boys thought they were the coaches. And then I'd say, "Yeah, I'm your head coach," and they'd look at me like, "What the?" So thankfully, I was head coach, and my son Desmond was my assistant coach, which he was my defense, and I had Nathaniel Kirk as my manager, but he was assigned to be offensive coach. So we worked together really well, and the team was one of the best teams I've ever coached from all of the players in BC. Yeah.
Wow. And I know you've been coaching for a long time, and you're still very active, I believe. Are you not?
Yes, I just came back from Junior All Native.
Yeah, so it's incredible. And I mean, with your success that you have in the rest of your life, which we haven't even gotten into yet, which is, world famous designer, world class designer, traveling the world. It must have started from your youth and traveling with sport. But do you find that is probably where your competitiveness came from and why you're so heavily driven?
Oh yeah, that's key. I'm very competitive. And especially with fashion design, every year I always work to outdo myself the next year. And it's pretty tough, when you're designing a collection and you're kind of like, what do I do next? How can you wow the crowd? And yeah, that really competitive. I know what the other designer, who they are, the other designers. And so I say, well, how can I be one of the top designers? So I'm always looking at that. And in sports, I'm very competitive. But now my older son is coaching the U13s, and I'm assistant coach for the first time in history. And yeah, but it's pretty good to hand it down, yet you still kind of say, well, let me figure out where I could use some of that 25 years of coaching and assist my son, which you probably know how it is to work with your children. Anyway, yeah, it's very, very competitive. I've always been that way because I had 4 brothers, and I always wanted to win more trophies than them in sports, which I accomplished.
No, you have a very matriarchal family. And it's interesting the contrast between the sports and the design. And you are, as Dean mentioned, a world-class, iconic designer where you have been recognized on so many different platforms. Let's go back to when you started to become a designer and who was your inspiration to put your art onto clothes? Because I know that you're an amazing artist, an amazing designer when it comes to graphic design, and you've really kept up with the times and technology to continue your artwork, and every collection you have is better than the rest, than something that was so amazing before. You just keep getting better and better as you get older. Can you explain where you started and where you are now?
Yeah, when I go and I speak at different classes and different venues. For instance, I'm the designer in residence at Kwantlen University, Wilson School of Design right now. When I speak to them, I said, I didn't grow up wanting to be a designer at all. It was not even my intention. I wanted to be a lawyer or a PE teacher. I mean, completely different. And then when I moved to San Diego, then I moved from there to Indianapolis. I worked with a really good friend of mine because I worked in cosmetics for a while at a department store. So I met a young lady, and her and I became friends, and we would coordinate fashion shows in Indianapolis, Indiana. And then when I moved back to Canada, I started working for our nation as a youth drug and alcohol counselor. And I thought, what better way to build self-esteem for our young ladies on the, as we say in reserve, because the States we say reservation, but is to coordinate fashion shows and build their self-confidence and self-esteem. And then next thing you know, we're traveling, TOC, I call it TOC Legends. We started traveling to do different fashion shows in BC and Colorado and Washington State. And then I was promoting First Nations designers. And then sometimes they would drop out at the last minute, and I'm stuck with not really having anything to show. So one day I was driving from Indianapolis to Chicago, and my sister was with me, and we were sitting in Denny's, and I said, you know what, maybe I need to just start designing. And she goes, yeah. She goes, you like clothes, I like clothes. I think that's a good idea. I had no idea how to design, but I knew I loved our button blankets. I loved our quilted blankets. I loved our traditional, regalia. And I said, yeah, that's how I'm going to start. So next thing you know, I think it was about 1986, I started thinking about fashion design. And so I started doing it. I wasn't good at all. And I think, yeah, a lot of people think you're going to jump out there and be really the best in the beginning, but I was pretty, I'm going to say bum. And then one day I decided to go to textile arts and got a 2-year diploma in textile arts because you could never find the fabric here in Vancouver. And then all of a sudden, our career counselor at Squamish Nation said to me, he goes, I see you really like fashion design. Would you consider going to get a degree in New York or LA? I said, let me think about it. And I had 2 little, kids at home. I drove about 2 blocks and I said, what do I got to think about? Okay, yeah, I'm interested in going to LA because it's closer. New York's too concrete for 2 little kids. So next thing I know, I'm applying to go to Otis Fashion Design in Los Angeles. And I got in and worked on, I talked my way out of doing the foundation year. So it's a 4-year degree. I got it in 3 years. And yeah, that's where the structure came again. And raising 2 boys and going to school, it was pretty difficult, but it was totally worth it.
At that point, were you focused on Indigenous design, or were you just whatever the programming was at the school? Were you doing what you were told, or what was it like for you then?
I always designed with First Nations design, and they would get upset at me. And one of the head of the school would say, you got to follow the trends. You got to do this, and and I'd said, well, my tribe sent me down here. I said, so it's about my tribe, and that's what I'm going back to do is work with my people. So I'd continually argue, and most of the time I was able to sneak in First Nations design. And thankfully the last year I won a huge award, and I snuck in design in a velvet piece. I did a velvet burnout piece with this big feather coat, and I won which award was it? Rosalind Gilbert Award or something like that. And thankfully, out of all the students, mine was a money award of $5,000. It wasn't the little thimble. If other designers won a category, it was a little thimble. And so I was really thankful with the 2 kids. We could go on a nice trip after graduation. So yeah, it was great it was very competitive there, and you learned a lot.
How do you find balance? Because I know that there's so much pressure as a designer, and every single year, maybe you can talk about some of the shows that you do, because I know that you go down to Santa Fe every year, and the pressure as an iconic, experienced mentor that's got such a reputation, everyone's looking for your collection for the newest, greatest, best thing to come out next. And with that, and with coaching, for sports and for raising grandchildren and still supporting your children. How do you find balance? What do you do for you so that you can grab that inspiration that you can create into your designs?
Oh, good question. Some people say you can coach and you're also, that's where you get balance. You go down and you coach with the young kids and you laugh, and then you get, you tell them to sharpen up and do their layups, and you just, that's where I get a lot of balance, because it's fun and they're like little sponges and they're picking up uh, skills. And then, of course, pretty much, that I go to Seattle Seahawks games all the time. And I'm a season ticket holder, so I go down and I can yell my head off and get rid of a lot of stress. Nobody cares how loud you yell. The louder you are, the better.
Yeah.
And then travel. Sometimes I just treat myself, and well, I think that's really key. I like to treat myself and just take off. I'm thinking, maybe I'll just jump on a plane pretty soon for maybe go to LA and just hang out down there. Then again, I'll go down and shop for fabric. So you got to think, well, where can you go just to walk around, go to dinner, have a latte or something. So it's very important to take care of yourself. I like to I get physio. I got to really focus on getting massage, get my nails done, my hair done, because you got to take care of yourself. And now that I'm older, you got a lot more doctor's appointments.
Yeah. One of the things that I've always been fascinated in, when Gina will show up, and, Gina wears your pieces often at wherever she's presenting or galas. And I mean, they're always showstopper pieces. It never ends. They're amazing. But, when I'm there and I see you and I see some of your pieces when you're in your work environment, right? And I'll say, like, look at that one, and you'll say, oh yeah, each one of those, like, I don't know, patches or pieces of material was hand painted, right? And I start thinking about how much time it goes into designing these single pieces. And then I think, Pam or Himikalas or Pam Baker Designs, you don't see the team behind that. It is really your brand. But what does it take for someone to get to your level, and what do the operations look behind it?
Yeah, really good question. A lot of I'm gonna share something that when I'm designing, I'm always looking for one or two of those pieces eventually will be in a museum or showcased, in a place like Vancouver Art Gallery. I had, a piece there last year, and then Santa Fe. So we always do that one piece, which we're almost finished building. I call it building. And when that piece is pretty much complete, then we start moving on to all of the next pieces. And uh, the collection that I'm working on right now is something that's never really been seen before. So the team, right, I thankfully have brought on a young girl. She's 23. She's her family's from Tsleil-Waututh, and she's non-native, so she's learning her traditions and cultures right now, and she's very good. So thankfully, I have somebody who understands the language, and I have Katie August Matthias, who's been working with me for 22 years. And she's one of the most patient people you would ever meet. She does all my beading and embroidery. And she's getting ready to come in next week until the day we go to the fashion show. She'll be touching up and doing things and putting the beads on and what I envision. And then I finally have a team in Burnaby who can sew my pieces a lot quicker. For instance, let's say I'm working on a fabulous bustier that's all antique buttons. And now we can just hand it over and say, can you close it for us? And then we can move on to the other pieces. So I also don't sew as much as I used to, thankfully. That's where you want to be, where you can just, give direction. And because you've made all the mistakes in the last 30 years, you get an idea of what has to be the next steps. we're working on a fabric that's kind of confused the hell out of us this last month. And so now we're ironing out the problems. And yeah, this next collection is going to be crazy. So I have a great team behind me now. I mean, it's always called these kind of teams the dream team. So finally, again, I have the dream team.
So what is well, one, the piece that's taken the most person hours to put together, and then of course what everyone wants to know, what's the most expensive piece that you've had to put together?
Well, when I first came back from LA, and we had I started a school, a fashion design school, and we kept it open about 7 years. It was very successful. I decided to close it down because of 2010 Olympics and do things that I needed to do. And in that time, we brought in a lady who taught true couture design. These days, people say couture design. To me, I get a little frustrated because it's not true couture. And so we brought in a fabulous teacher who taught about 3 of my students couture.
So what does
And
that mean,
so,
Pam? What is couture? I don't know.
It's haute couture, where each piece is not just a pattern piece. You know, you take a pattern piece, you cut out, you got seam allowance. This one here, every little piece is overlaid, and they sew it, they loop it, they sew it, they loop it, and then you pull the pieces apart, and then you clip it so you have the exact sew lines that you need. You're not guessing. And a lot of hand stitching. Your hems are hand stitched beautifully. Everything has, I mean, I don't like to serge any of my projects because serging doesn't look high end. If we can finish it with a high end finishing, that's what we work towards. Sometimes before the fashion show, we're just flying at it and getting it finished. So haute couture is, your training usually comes from Paris. You know, we see the big houses in Paris. So that's true couture. Yet, when you look at the side of the First Nations designers, a lot of them have learned to do skins, the beading, the all of the materials from our own country, I mean, our own territories. So in a way, that's true couture because you've been taught to do everything by hand.
Oh,
So
interesting.
there's that balance. Yeah.
So what was the longest? How long did it take for the
Oh,
longest piece? Yeah.
oh,
sorry.
that cape. That's sorry, I got off track. The cape that I did and I designed, which is still, I'm still building on the Chilkat collection, Chilkat Elements. That cape was worth $12,000 because of the man hours that went into it. And that was a true couture piece. And all the beading and embroidery was all done by Katie, who was trained to do that. And so to me, that's one of the top pieces forever. That one has been in the New York Encyclopedia of Fashion Design. It's been in a coffee table book. It's been shot, you know, it's been in a museum. So to me, that's the most expensive piece. So our pieces, and people need to understand that they can run from $2,200 to $10,000, depending on the amount of embellishment that goes on it.
For sure. And I am so thankful because I get to be an old Barbie doll wearing your beautiful wares. I mean, it's gone from what is this event about to what is Gina going to be wearing that's Himikalas, that's touch of culture, because you've just go over and beyond couture, and it's such a pleasure and an honor to wear things like that. Tell us something, and I know you have your ready to wear collection.
Yeah.
You have your haute couture collection, but you just did something pretty groundbreaking with the Hudson's Bay. Maybe you can talk about that.
Oh yeah, I from one of the Vancouver Indigenous Fashion Week, they had a native man there that represented the Hudson's Bay, and he asked me if I wanted to have my ready to wear pieces at Hudson's Bay, and they also offered me to be in as many stores as I wanted to, but I didn't want to be in too many stores because it could be overwhelming, and I'd have to have more of a staff. So I said I'll do the downtown store. I'll set up there, and it's really great. we were on the third floor, then we were moved to the second floor. And so I also feel there's a transition going on with the Hudson's Bay. So I'm kind of seeing what's going to happen. And it's been very, very good. The working relationship is great. The employees are fantastic. And now we're going into tourist season. So I have to start doing, what tourists can fit in their luggage. So I've been ordering a lot of ready to wear pieces, and we'll be building on to that. So we'll have it available when we need to restock. So it's a great connection. And also the story behind it is my great great grandmother, Mary Ebbets Anislaga. Her and her husband moved to Fort Rupert. That's why, and that's where they opened a Hudson's Bay company there. So there's some people who are not happy with Hudson's Bay, but there's a lot of us that have had major positive experiences. So that's another reason I went in, because our family, the Hunt side, has had a positive experience with the Hudson's Bay.
I love to go in, and I've seen it, and I'm so proud. And I think it brings a lot of pride to not just nation members, but also Indigenous community, to know that you're doing something like this.
Mhm.
And for somebody of your caliber, I've always admired how humble you
Yeah,
are.
definitely.
You're incredibly humble. Maybe it's from sports, maybe it's been from winning championships, and maybe it's just in your teachings for us as Indigenous people to be humble in what we're doing. But you've got somebody that you've hired that's starting to shift technologically with your brand. And I follow you, of course, as many other people do, but and even at that, you're so subtly promotional, right? So people that know you, that follow you, that admire you, but how is it where you're starting to get more attention from a different audience than that sort of packed target market that you've been selling to or promoting your product to?
Let me see here.
How comfortable are you with it?
I'm pretty comfortable with it. When it comes in, it comes in. When it doesn't, it doesn't. You pretty much, as you know me, Gina, I'm called a serial entrepreneur. I'm always starting different businesses. I've also focused on passive income and collaborations. In regards to the new being on social media, which I didn't even care about before. In the last 3 years, I've hired an individual that knows who I am, and we've gone. It's just started going crazy, and I thought, holy crap, how am I going to do this? So the new girl that's working with me, eventually she's going to be picking up, and we've developing forms. So I'm not saying, oh, where's that order at? You just go nuts about different things. Then I sit there at nighttime, geez, did I do that one yet? So when I think the ultimate goal for me is to, number one is museums. Number two is to let the world know we're still First Nations people are here. And now this is the time for our First Peoples in this world. And then being able to have young people say, hey, there's a Native designer who's been here a while. And if she can do it, I can do it. So the ultimate goal is to inspire our First Nations to start their own businesses and be dedicated, and also assist young people, like you said, mentoring, because I've been mentoring a lot of individuals. So handling the new attention doesn't bother me, because I always just say I'm a little res girl from North Van, and when it happens, it happens, and you just got to deal with it.
Yeah, no, and I was just going to say as well is, you're so down to earth, right? You're so relatable. You work grassroots as you possibly can and stick with your community or communities. But I don't think a lot of people understand that. I've gone to some of your shows, right? And at the Orpheum, and the models and the who's who of fashion is there. And I'm looking around, and you're so natural. It is when and you're presenting in all of your pieces, and it's like, this is nothing. And
Yeah.
so it's amazing, and that you're taking the youth and showing them, look, I'm still this person. I've worked long and hard, been creative, been thoughtful, probably a lot of great resources, and this is where you can be, but you're still you. So what would you say to the youth? Like, what is your message when you're talking about entrepreneurship that you had said?
Uh, really don't give up. You will fail many times. I mean, I've failed so many times in the last 40 years, and I can say 40, yeah, 40 years. And do something that you love doing and really care about the people you're working with. Because I've seen designers that walk in and demand this and that, and I'm thinking, what the hell? You don't treat people like that. You treat people the way you want to be treated. So you're never higher than anybody else. You need to be at the same level as everybody else, and do your best to be also straightforward. A lot of people know I'm pretty straightforward when I have a message. And I do in a way where I'm not pointing fingers. And as in some of the sessions that I've done with you, is I eliminate some words from my vocabulary. And once I eliminated the words 90%, I am it's easier to communicate with people. And I think they see it as being more supportive. So supportive, yet get the job done. It's not because if I was a boss who said you should do this and you need to try that, and oh, I can't see, so those words are really a little bit demeaning. So I'd say, well, how can we work this out? How can, let's take the next step. Oh, this fabric is being it's not working. So what do we need to do? So that's very important for all young people, everybody, to eliminate certain words in the vocabulary and use uplifting words all the time. And yeah, you will fail, yet you just keep pushing yourself. I mean, I've been pushing myself a long time. Sometimes I think, what the hell am I doing this for? Yet I love it because I'm passionate about it. And the ultimate goal is to do create in a contemporary way.
I love your words. And I remember because our kids, well, Marley, your grandchild, and our children playing at a very young age. And I think my kids were like 4 or something. And one of them said, try. I'm going to try to do this. And you just automatically, try is not in your vocabulary. There is no try. So maybe you can give us a couple words that you say to your team, because I've heard you say that a lot. Like, there is no try.
Yeah.
There is do.
Yeah, that's the same with everything I'm involved in. Anytime I'm teaching, I say, write it on a paper, put it in your bathroom, read it every day, and I guarantee you'll have more success. And the number one word, again, is try. To eliminate that word, should, can't, but, and hate. And the last one I finally just added this year is like.
Yes.
I say to a lot of the youth, do you hear them on TV, newscasters or talk show hosts or actors say like a million times in one day? And I've been working with my grandson and granddaughter about eliminating those words as well. And all my teams, my basketball teams for the past 25 years. And some of the guys still say to me, they go, yeah, Auntie, I gave up that word like. I'm still doing that, and what the thing is they're passing it on to their kids. And I ran into a guy that I coached at the opening ceremonies at All Native last week. Yes, already last week. And I said, so what did you learn from me from coaching? He says, sharpen up or shape up or ship out. And I use that a lot when I was coaching the kids, but yet he still knows how to eliminate those words when he's coaching. So it's pretty good. I enjoy seeing people that they actually listened.
I love how you have the direct connection between sport and business.
Yeah.
You seem to you apply it to both teams or all teams.
Yeah, it's lots of fun.
I love that. I've got a really interesting question, and I know from our non-Indigenous audience and our audience, you are a designer. You make Indigenous design clothes. You also make Indigenous jewelry. I know a lot of individuals, and we've worked in industry for a really long time, feel that it's cultural appropriation if they feel uncomfortable wearing something Indigenous if they're not Indigenous.
Mm-hmm.
And your target market is vast and beyond that. And can you maybe talk to our listeners that are non-Indigenous from every culture, that love a pair of beaded earrings, that love one of your dresses, that feel that because they're not Indigenous, that they either shouldn't be wearing it respectfully, or how can they be made more comfortable? Because we all love different designs and different art, but it seems to be this barrier of uncomfortable nature. And we like to call it, I tell people it's cultural appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I've had that question several times. I share with the individuals asking, I say, a lot of my ready to wear is more contemporary. It is not designs that I've appropriated from other nations. I only design under Coast Salish, Kwakwaka'wakw, and Tlingit. I would never utilize designs from any other nations, tribes. And what the bottom line is, you are wearing something that's contemporary, and you're proud. If you're proud wearing it, wear it, and get excited about it, and that you're supporting a First Nations business, and you're also appreciating the territory you're living in.
No, I love that. And I know that with all Indigenous cultures, for example, our animals mean something. So a bear is loyalty, and a hummingbird is a nurturer, and a wolf represents family and loyalty, etc. So I find a lot of non-Indigenous people really connect with those spirit animals, and they're looking. I think everyone's looking for some belonging or some sort of meaning, whether it's cross-cultural or what have you. And I think really what this does is it's about education, and it's about educating that we are all so diverse, and we celebrate each other's cultures.
Mm-hmm.
So to provide that platform where people feel comfortable in wearing an Indigenous shawl like you have, or a skirt or pants like I was wearing in my last podcast of yours, but having people compliment you on it and not feel like you shouldn't be wearing it because you're going to be up for some sort of criticism.
Oh, yeah.
Because we really have to uplift each other, and we really have to share this culture.
Yeah, it's I don't think the line is so fine like it used to be. There's a fine line, when I'm designing, even when I go up north or something, you hear, oh, I only can wear killer whale, or I only can wear bear. So even with all of the nations in BC, there's like 230 dialects in BC. So everybody, actually, I had a question once, or somebody told me, she said, somebody asked me how you can use so many designs. I can use a bear, thunderbird, sea seal, and so on and so forth. Thankfully, on my mother's side, Muskamat Zaodeno and the Quagio, in the potlatch, your families own certain treasure boxes, and so I look at that. And my brother, two of my brothers are artists too, and we do, like right behind me now, I look at it. That's my brother Gikame Gikamae. he paints very contemporary, and I always look at his paintings. They would make fabulous fabrics. But if I said, hey, why don't you? He'd be like, oh, nope, nope. So what was I lost my train of thought. What was the question again?
I think just talking about
Oh,
wearing and feeling
yeah,
comfortable wearing designs as a non-Indigenous
yeah.
person and being welcome and
I think they enjoy it. Let's say, okay, let's say you're going to Juneau, Alaska. And then a lot of the stores up there, as we all know, they buy from non-native companies, native designs, which we could go into that conversation for hours. Why not? Because they're grabbing those designs. They might not understand it. Why not get it from a First Nations company that the designs are from First Nations company and designer? A lot of the non-native companies, they get the designs from our First Nations, and they're really not supporting the artists in a good way. So I always look at, why not support those companies that are doing the whole gamut? There's several designers who are doing that now, and a lot of people are wanting to wear those designs and are happy to wear. And because it's, for instance, graphic designs. My new collection, I'm finally saying I'm going to look at our baskets, what baskets our grandmothers had wove, and the Salish side. So good portion of my collection will be representing my dad's side. So you're representing your families, and basically how many Coast Salish. And the geometric designs are what Ralph Lauren's been using forever, Um, So I would,
oh, and I
bottom line is, support those companies and enjoy what you're wearing. If you like it, you buy it, right? If you don't,
I
you
agree.
move on to the
I
next.
I agree. And most respectful, I think, and I can say this to all people, whether you're Indigenous or non-Indigenous, when you're wearing fashion or you've got earrings or you're wearing something that's a showstopper, stunning, know who the artist is.
Mhm.
It's a great conversation piece for lots of people. If you are wearing a pair of earrings, I would say, oh, I'm wearing these. Oh, I like your earrings. Oh, these are Giggy's beads. Or this is Himikalas, Pam Baker. It's a gala gown. That's a wow thing. That's a wow factor. But know the artist that you're wearing. It's great respect to the artist. It's great respect to the culture. And it's a nice conversation piece so that you know that you're respecting. And that's a great way to get around that uncomfortable, I'm not Indigenous, but I'm wearing Indigenous.
Mhm.
How do people get a hold of you?
Best way to get a hold of me is through Instagram and Facebook. I don't have a website because I have realized I get more of an audience on social media. You can get a hold of me at Himikalas Pam Baker on Instagram. You can get an idea of what I design or how I design. And then also you can email me. And what happens is, when somebody is interested, my girl who does it, she reminds me to get back to people, because how many of us can go on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and stay up with messages? So she red flags me when I need to pay attention to something. Yeah, or an inquiry.
Excellent. And then what are we looking at for next? What's next? Santa Fe, what's next for
Santa
you?
Fe, I'm traveling down there May 1st to the 6th. It's their first fashion week. And then they're still going to do Santa Fe Indian Market. So there's 2 events. So I also have a show. I'm going to be the featured artist for the Harmony Arts Festival in West Van. So that's great. My pieces are going to be shot next week. So the main one's being finished now. So there's a photo shoot coming up, and then there's going to be a lot of advertising for Harmony Arts Festival. And then I will have pieces in the Ferry building, and you'll be able to buy product there. And then we're doing a show, another one. I have 5 shows this year, which I said I would only do 2 a year. So I just got to do it.
And I'm looking forward to my outfit for the BC Achievement Awards again this year.
That's right.
Very excited about that.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Mhm.
We could talk for hours. You are a personal friend. You're a mentor. You're just the most amazing human.
Oy.
And I love spending the time with you. So thank you so much to
Yeah.
Himikalas. And follow us, download this episode, follow us on social media. We are Beyond the Lair. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and TikTok, and live your dream, find your purpose.
Yep, that's right.
Thank you so much, Himikalas.
Keep on keeping on.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Lair. Please follow us, download this episode, and follow us on social media on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok.